welcome to the joint press conference of the bilateral meeting between the Philippines and New Zealand.
Bring that out a bit.
We will now invite our ministers to give their opening statements with Secretary Teodoro, with Minister Judith Collins to go first.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to be here in Manila on my first visit to the Republic of the Philippines to sign such an important agreement with Secretary Teodoro. The status of visiting forces agreement delivers on the commitment made by our leaders last year to strengthen defence engagement and explore new frameworks for cooperation. This reflects the strength of New Zealand's relationship with the Philippines, of which defence is a key element. Our militaries already work well together, and this agreement will create the conditions for even more seamless cooperation in the defence space. It will ensure we can work hand in hand with ease, particularly when urgent responses are required, such as if we need to provide support to each other in the event of a natural disaster. Our two countries also share a region and many common interests, such as improving maritime security. We expect that bilateral defence activity will increase in the future, and it's important to have a modern quality framework to support this. As New Zealand's Attorney General, I appreciate a formal legal framework, and as Minister of Defence, I also know it is my job to ensure that serving personnel have the tools they need to perform and to achieve their objectives. That's the practical reason why this signing is so important. The other is a real understanding that the strategic environment that we are operating in is deteriorating. As a result, we have vowed to step up and play our part working with others in our region. Today's signing is a result of Prime Minister Chris Luxon and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. committing last year to concluding this agreement. That commitment was born from the understanding of the risks to the international rules-based order. And as our Prime Minister has said, New Zealand looks to protect and advance our interests in the Indo-Pacific, and we can only do so alongside partners. Because what I find as I travel the world discussing international security issues with counterparts and engaging on defence diplomacy is that it is the human element, the personal connections that we make, that give us the ability to forge lasting defence relationships. Today, I believe we are celebrating another such relationship. My sincere thanks to our gracious hosts today and to those who have worked so hard behind the scenes to build on what has come before and to make this event a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Collins. It is indeed an honor to welcome you to sign this historic agreement between both our countries, which came about during the talks of both President Marcos and Prime Minister Luxon exactly a year to date. And within 1 year, it is to the credit of both our teams on the Philippine side and the New Zealand side that they burned the midnight oil to come out with the agreement which we signed today. As you know, New Zealand is a partner of deep standing of the Philippines, not only now in defense, but also in the environment and natural resources, the National Economic Development Authority, the Department of Agriculture, and other key government agencies. New Zealand has recognized the 2016 Arbitral Award and is a partner in upholding UNCLOS and other international norms. And more importantly, I think the underpinning of this agreement is also the deep people-to-people ties that we share. The minister shared earlier that there are 100,000 Filipinos in New Zealand now who, if they're listening right now, Maraming salamat po na naging excellent ambassadors kayo po ng Pilipinas sa New Zealand at reputasyon at dangal ng Pilipino inangat ninyo. I said, Your Excellency, that I gave credit to the 100,000 Filipinos for each becoming an envoy of the Philippines, upholding the highest standards of humanity, civility, good citizenship in New Zealand. And they have had influence and contributions. And the same, when I was much younger, I think the bulk of the reforestation programs were funded by New Zealand in the 70s and a host of developmental authorities. But now we come to face the reality on both our countries that peace doesn't come for free. It is not a free dividend, but must be committed to. And thus, we are committed to our mutual resilience. And in this way, through the SOBFA, interoperability, other enhanced exchanges shall be done for collective resilience in the Indo-Pacific region, and also bilateral efforts to develop our mutual resilience. Our threats are not dissimilar, they are similar. Whether they be from challenges to the rules-based international order or to facing the challenges posed by climate change. And in both of these challenges, our defense establishments play a key role. New Zealand has recently embarked on a defense enhancement and resilience program. Their journey will be in the same manner as us, where we are investing a lot on defense capabilities, skills, new challenges, asymmetric challenges, and our journeys share similar paths. That we learn the lesson now that peace is best backed with resilience and with deterrence. And no country in the world can afford to ignore this fact, no matter how distant one may be. And so the path of New Zealand's enhancing its defense capabilities is squarely in line with the values that we share, squarely in line with the path that the Philippine Defense Establishment is taking. And it is squarely within the expectations of both our peoples to remain free, to explore and exploit the resources that international treaties grant to us for the future generations of our people. Thus, we welcome the post-signing activities. We will increase the pace of our interactions, both bilaterally and multilaterally. Thank you also for the opportunities that you have granted our defense establishment to further their education and their exposure to the evolving nature of the defense ecosystem. And in conclusion, we commit to securing to fixing the internal processes to secure a speedy presidential ratification of the same and the Senate concurrence that is required. We are indeed fortunate to have a partner as, distant to us, but as close to us at the same time as New Zealand, shoulder to shoulder. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. We will now take questions from the media, beginning with Pamela Castro of Agence France Presse.
For Defense Minister Judith Collins, my question is, why did New Zealand decide to forge this agreement with the Philippines? And may you please help us understand what is at stake for New Zealand in the Indo-Pacific region, particularly in the South China Sea? And also for Secretary Teodoro, how can the signing of this SOFA help the Philippines in its territorial claims in the South China Sea?
Right, well, I'll start first. Thank you for the question. It's very important for New Zealand that as a small nation that we adhere to the rules-based order and, for instance, the law of the sea, the UNCLOS law of the sea. We're a maritime nation like the Philippines. We're a nation that relies on trade routes and we have respect for the law of the sea. We have been involved with monitoring, making sure that the trade routes through the South China Sea and others are kept open. And we do that because it is in our best interest as a small nation to show that international law matters. The Philippines is a partner that we have engaged with over many years. There's a long-standing engagement, and we have shared in similar values, particularly when it comes to the law of the sea and the rules-based order.
As the minister has said, New Zealand is a partner in the rules-based order. Our sovereign rights and other claims of which are being claimed by others without entitlement of claiming them. And with China, for example, being particularly aggressive in the way it does its claims, we need to deter this kind of unwanted behavior from happening. It could happen today here and who knows where else in the future. Thus, this is not merely an exercise in Philippine territorial claims, but in upholding the rules of the road down the line so that the Philippine experience, although we have a goal really of securing our constitutional and treaty boundaries and exclusive economic zones, our goal really is to have parity in the world when it comes to the enforcement of international law. Look, at any one time, we do have Filipino nationals abroad. And so it is really important for us to have clear international law norms, not only for us here, but for our citizens abroad, that we have a clear understanding and a clear determination to resist illegal attempts to reshape the world order into an order which will uphold a particular philosophy, group, or clique. And thus, our alliance building measures, latest with New Zealand and soon some more, is important because there are those who follow international law and there are those who want to redefine it. And I think the camps are becoming clearer. So for us, any addition to those that support UNCLOS in the way it is written and not in the way it wants to be defined against the 9 or 10 dash line is welcome to us and helpful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Pam. Up next is Joy Cantos of the Filipino Star ngayon.
I can't wait. My day is now complete. Force and the Philippine Armed Forces of the Philippines. So that is the next step after the SOVFA is ratified and concurred in by the Senate. We will work to have the mechanisms for bilateral and multilateral armed force to armed force training.
To Secretary Collins, ma'am, while New Zealand claims to uphold independent foreign policy, the agreement itself paves the way, or rather signal for a closer alignment with the U.S. security initiative in Indo-Pacific region. Any comment?
We have an independent foreign policy, as does the Philippines. Every country in the world has independent foreign policy. And I think it's really important to understand that we have to always look to the best interests of our people. And so in New Zealand, our independent foreign policy is that we make the best decisions that we can based on what we know for New Zealand, and also obviously in partnership with our friends. The United States and New Zealand has a very long history of working together in the military. We are part of the Five Eyes Agreement, which is an intelligence sharing arrangement, and we have been since the late 1940s. So it should be no surprise to anybody that for many years we have engaged actively with the US military, and we work very closely with Australia, who is our only formal ally. So I don't know why anyone would be surprised. We've been working like that for 70 years. We'll probably expect to do so for the next 70 years.
Secretary Teodoro, sir.
Tatlo na yan.
Sir, ito na lang po. Sir,
Basta ikaw.
sir, despite our path to peace grounded in international and mutual respect, China is continuing its
Pakiulit
aggressive
mo nga, medyo
posture.
mabilis. Pakiulit niya.
Sir, basahin ko na lang po.
Sige, binabasa mo naman eh.
Sir, despite our path to peace grounded in international law and mutual respect, China is continuing its aggressive posturing. The latest move is at Sandy Cay, and the PLA Southern Charter claims that it conducted patrol at the West Philippine Sea. We cannot be sang-froid at all times to their irresistible crank. Any reaction?
Sang Freud? Oh, that's a very deep... No, naturally, Joy. Firstly, any comment regarding the Sandy Cay issue is for the National Maritime Council to answer, and the DFA. Let me say this. The best motivating factor in human terms, in real terms, for us going together is China's overreach. The Chinese Communist Party overreach. And I stress this because their actions have resulted in a grave damage to the goodwill that the Chinese people should have in the whole world, just because of a grand vision for what they should be, and continuing legitimization of the dictatorship of the party. Now, in terms of their actions, that is what I appeal to our countrymen to do. Please do not give so much weight into what they say. Because as I said before, they propagandize and they don't communicate. There's a big difference between propagandizing and communicating. And let's judge them by what they do and not what they say. Thank you, Joy. You made my day.
Up next is Andrea Calonzo of Bloomberg News.
Good afternoon. To Secretary Teodoro first. Sir, we finished the VFA with New Zealand. How about our planned VFA with Canada and France? What's the status of that, and when do you see those being signed?
The signing of the VFA with Canada is tentatively scheduled soon, very soon. I think there is a notional date, and I will wait for the proper announcements to be made officially. Now, with France, I hope we have already received the authority to negotiate a VFA with France, and we will get to work as soon as possible. As you've seen, the staff, our co-workers have been working extremely hard under time pressure and properly vetting all these agreements. So it's a credit to them that these are the outcomes. Likewise, we will be signing a memorandum of understanding with Germany on the 14th of May, when I go there for a peacekeeping conference. So our engagements have a strategic bent in mind, and they're all based initially on the acceptance of UNCLOS and the acceptance of the Philippine position in the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. And we are also in a process of reviewing the agreements with countries that do not support our claims and do not have benefit to our defense and foreign policy position.
Sir, very, very short follow-up. The very soon, does it mean like
The
this
number
quarter?
of varies contradicts your follow-up. You said very, 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 very short, but becomes long.
Very soon with Canada. So does that mean this quarter at least?
I can't. I think let's keep it at very soon. You know.
The Minister Collins.
No, very, 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 very soon, as you
So-
said.
to Minister
Yeah, sorry.
Collins. So, can you give us an idea what how New Zealand sees Southeast Asia as a region, and maybe like what other efforts are you taking to bolster your defense ties also with our neighbors, and how important is that for you?
Well, thank you. The world is, as you know, in a challenging place at the moment. There's a lot of geostrategic competition going on, particularly in Southeast Asia and the Pacific generally. And we see ourselves as very much a Pacific nation that is located in a part of the world that we would like to keep peaceful. We have a long history of being involved in Southeast Asia. I think to our efforts in Borneo, our efforts in the Malaya emergency, our efforts in Singapore, helping Singapore with its independence. So we have a long history there. We've also been in Vietnam. We've been in all sorts of places. We're involved at the moment and have been for many years in demining in Laos, or Lao PDR. So we are very committed to this. We're working closer with Japan. We have been involved for a long time with the Republic of Korea. We are the second largest country in terms of contribution to the UN's commission in the demilitarized zone. So we're the second largest to the US and have been for a very, very long time. So we are part of the region. We play a very important role, I believe, of just standing up for what we believe is right and understanding that the law of the sea, but also the rules-based order, is something that benefits other maritime nations like ourselves, and that it is in our best interest to maintain that responsibility and that relationship. We were involved with Australia in the East Timor situation in the late 1990s, and that is Timor-Leste, as it is now, is actually one of the countries with which we have a SOFA agreement as well. We're long-standing and we're not going away.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up is Martin Zadongdong of Manila Bulletin.
Good afternoon, Secretary Teodoro, and welcome to the Philippines, Minister Collins. So this question is addressed to both parties. What are the main provisions of the Status of Visiting Forces Agreement? What are the primary goals or expected benefits of this agreement for both countries? And are we expecting to hold joint maritime patrols in the West Philippine Sea soon?
Do you want to? Oh, okay. Well, mostly this is about the status of our forces when they are in the Philippines and the status of the Philippines forces when they're in New Zealand. It gives a legal framework so that we don't have to race around and get a new framework every time we are visiting or that the Philippines is visiting us. So it gives some certainty and to that legal status. It is not unique to the Philippines. We've got it with other countries, and we're increasing that activity to make our operability, interoperability much more enhanced. In terms of anything else, I think that we're just seeing basically we have undertaken work with the Australians, the US and others, and we're just going to continue doing the work we do around the law of the sea and also around the rules-based order. And as a maritime nation, we appreciate the ability to be able to sail in international waters.
Added to this is the ability for our armed forces and other members of the defense establishment to have familiarity with each other, to interoperate. And as an axiom in an armed force is the more you train together, the more trust and confidence is built. And this is not only for defensive purposes, but more importantly, since both New Zealand and the Philippines are in the ring of fire, it will help interoperability in terms of HADR between our troops. And it will also allow the New Zealand and the Philippine Armed Forces to interact with other troops in the Philippines and elsewhere. For example, in Australia, in Japan, and of course with the United States.
Thank you. We now call on Maricar Cinco of Kyodo News.
Good afternoon, secretaries. Minister Collins mentioned earlier about the information sharing, and actually my questions relevant to that because yesterday the Japanese Prime Minister and President Marcos confirmed the start of discussions on security of information agreement. And we would just like to ask Secretary Teodoro, is it, if you can expound on that and how come it's called differently from the GSOMIA that we have with the USA?
It's called differently because each country has its own set of procedures regarding classifications of a piece of information and how this may be used and who may have access, in short, who may have access to what. And this is country specific. Hence the need for bilateral agreements between Japan and the Philippines to enhance our domain awareness and other mutual activities that we need to conduct. And it is a protection measure that not only do these countries demand from us, but which we demand likewise.
Yes, sir. Sir, very quick follow-up. So is it the same as with GSOMIA and also to Minister Collins? Are you going to have the same agreement with New Zealand after the signing today?
In terms of New Zealand, that is a matter that we still have to talk about. With Japan, we'll see. We will begin negotiations as soon as we are given the authority to do so formally. We are waiting for the authority so we can begin negotiations on that extent, to that extent. And we want to have a full complement of resilience measures and deterrence measures too, to be on the ground and operating as soon as possible. And these deterrence measures and resilience measures require secrecy of information.
And last we'll have Ian Cruz of GMA News.
Good afternoon. My question is for Minister Collins, but of course, Secretary Teodoro may also respond. Madam, the Philippines has visiting forces agreement with the United States, with Australia and Japan. And so how will the SOFA with New Zealand differ from the other agreements? And will you also consider deploying your troops in our territories in the West Philippine Sea or in the South China Sea? Thank you.
Well, the agreement that we have with the Philippines is very similar to the agreement between the Philippines and Australia. So there's not any difference really. And so I'd say it doesn't actually affect it at all. In terms of deployment, we're not anticipating needing to do any such thing, but we are obviously still maintaining our work on sanctions work for North Korea and its activities. We will continue our P8A Poseidon work. We will continue our transits. We will continue to uphold the law of the sea, but we're not anticipating having to deploy anybody anywhere soon at all.
I just like to add different scenarios where the VFA, the SOBFA may be important. For example, theoretically, there may be a UN peacekeeping mission where New Zealand and the Philippines will work side by side. VFA is very, very important so that we know how to work together in furtherance of a UN mandate, for example. In HADR, it is also important so we know the capabilities of the New Zealand Armed Force, how they can help us and how we can help them. At any one time, climate change effects don't affect us at the same time. So we can sort of prepare for these challenges on a more or less regular basis. Hopefully not necessary, but it's good to plan, and it also will help us help those that are equally affected in the Pacific Islands and other areas.
And if I could just add to that, it's worth noting that New Zealand has a SOFA agreement with Fiji, and Fiji has a much smaller population than either New Zealand or the Philippines. But it was during one of our terrible cyclones, Cyclone Gabrielle, that Fiji offered, and we were happy to receive their assistance with people in the HADR role. And so it's not only a one-way track of us helping in HADR for other countries, but it's also other countries helping us as well, because these events affect us, as the Secretary has said, often at different times, and we still have to respond. So it's often a two-way street, as we could say.
Thank you. That concludes our Q&A. We'd like to invite our two ministers to stand in the middle of the stage for the final photo opportunity.
Where do you want us to be? Where are we? So, we're not that slow.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'd like to request our media friends and our visitors to stay in their places while our two ministers leave the venue.